The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. I'm your host, JD, and with me, as always, is my best bro in the whole wide universe, Mr. Kyle.
Yo.
Cool. And joining us for yet another movie here, Mr. Brian is here as well.
Oh, yeah!
Brian is apparently going to be Macho Man Randy Savage this week.
No, I'm actually Razlor from that Dexter cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
I will not fight you, little monkey! I do not like these samurai!
So, this week we're continuing our Road to WrestleMania month, where we're taking a look at all the odd Hanna-Barbera WWE crossover films, and it's been an interesting ride so far, with crossovers with Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones, and this week we're heading back to Scooby-Doo.
I see what you did there. It's been an interesting ride.
I didn't even... yeah, so this movie is apparently in continuity with the last crossover film they did with Scooby-Doo. And rather than having another WWE wrestling adventure, it's like Death Race, Wacky Racers. It's a racing movie, not a wrestling movie.
Yes.
And it's about as bizarre as that sounds.
It's called Curse of the Speed Demon. And
Curse of the Speed Demon.
I just want to start by saying I like this one more than the first one that we watched. Not as much as the Flintstones one, but I think this one was just... It took... Like, the first one was kind of like, alright, here's our first, WWE crossover. We gotta, have... It's about wrestling. It's everyone going, John Cena! And it's, us worshiping wrestling. And now it's just like, okay, well, we've done that. We've got that out of our system. Let's make this thing that's completely off the wall and bonkers and crazy and weird, because that's what this is.
Yeah, it's pretty strange.
It was good to see a movie without John Cena.
Yeah,
That's
John
true.
Cena's not even in this movie.
The Undertaker.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they said, you know what, we're going to make The Undertaker the main guy this time. And you know what? That's cool, because I remember him from back in the day.
Yeah. Honestly, he's the only one I can recognize their name. Like, everyone else, I'm like, who?
Like,
what?
I know who Triple H and Stephanie are. I know who The Miz and Paige are. But, I didn't know who the Matadors were. I vaguely remember Goldust and Stardust. I have no idea who Sheamus is.
Sheamus, a lot of people have said I look like him, and I'm like,
Because you have red hair and stuff?
I guess, but I don't have that mustache thing.
Right.
Or spiky hair.
Yeah. And then Vince McMahon is in this, because he has to be.
He's the
Well,
CEO.
not just Vince McMahon, but Vince McMahon's daughter,
Yeah,
Stephanie McMahon.
Who's actually married to Triple H in real life.
Are they still married, or...
As last I checked.
Because this would be one of those, weird... like in a TV show or something where they reference a celebrity marriage, and then you're watching it years later, and it's like, oh, yeah. It was a thing.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they're still married. But yeah, so this is a strange movie in the sense that they just tell you right up front, hey, we're doing this off-road challenge with these weirdly designed vehicles to represent the wrestlers, and they're just gonna be doing that. That's just a thing that's happening, and you're not supposed to question it.
Yeah, you're not supposed to question, why is it wrestling? why is it not wrestling? Why is it racing? And everybody's car like has a theme, so it's like they're racing Hot Wheels like along the thing.
it's everyone has a fucking Hot Wheels car, and I'm sure they tried to sell Hot Wheel cars of these at some point.
I just love that they have the newscaster reported everything, and they're like, oh, well, you see, everybody is equipped with these magnetic boots, and then they can do this stuff. It's like, okay, then.
Yeah, it was so they could do repairs on the go. And there was... they had the announcer from, like, the last movie.
I think he's, like, an actual announcer for the WWE.
Yeah, Michael
He's one of the ringside... Yeah, one of the ringside guys.
But then they had... I guess, is he a wrestler? Kofi Kingston?
Kofi Kingston is part of a group called The New Day, and I think when this was made, maybe he was his own singular person, but I know he's like in a big three-way group nowadays.
He plays the other announcer for the race,
and he's flying around on a drone.
He's flying around on a drone, surfing it like a skateboard. It's kind of amazing. Also, he has a tie and a blazer, but no shirt. Like he wants to look, professional, but not that professional.
Not at the expense of showing off his
casual.
pecs.
Yeah,
it's business casual for them. But yeah, so this movie starts out with Shaggy and Scooby because this is apparently in continuity with the last movie, so they already know Vince McMahon and all that. Sort of like Vince McMahon let him set up a food cart at the big race show.
I actually kind of laughed at that reveal, because it starts with them watching wrestling, they're watching the race in
the food truck on a TV, and then it's like, well, we need better reception, so they open the window and they're at the race. Like, oh yeah, I forgot we were here.
I forgot we were at the race, man. But what I thought was funny is that, and this is just a compliment to the animators, is that they made it look like they were in just a fast food joint after closing. And they were just watching racing at night, and then they're getting shitty reception, which is funny because they're getting shitty reception in 2016, and they have the analog, kind of distortion. But then Scooby gets up and starts adjusting a satellite dish.
Sure, why not?
And then he opens up the curtain and it reveals they're at the race, and I thought that was pretty funny.
I did appreciate that the rest of the Scooby Gang wasn't as apprehensive about being around the wrestlers as they were last time.
Nah. Freddy's job in this is he becomes a gearhead, which is kind of interesting because I always thought he would know how a car works because he's always driving the Mystery Machine around. Right,
but he's the trap guy because that's Fred's job now.
Yeah, and then Daphne's just sort of schmoozing it up with Stephanie McMahon. I didn't sort of cut you off, and Velma is basically just hot for Daphne the whole time.
She's just there. Velma's not really given much to do this time.
No, I'm serious. Daphne goes off with Stephanie McMahon to get pedicures at one point, and they play it up. Velma's like, oh, she's going off my friend. That's my friend you're going off with, but it's just kind of what is she hot for? Is she
Everybody knows that Daphne and Velma are lesbians. Come on, everybody. Jesus, we've known it for years.
I'm thinking too hard into this. I took a lot of notes on this film.
Well, then let's get into it, man.
Okay. Well, we kind of mentioned that. It's weird that this isn't a Wacky Races crossover and instead of a Scooby-Doo.
No, see, this is what my problem with this. If this were a crossover with NASCAR, I'd accept this more. But the fact that it's wrestling, something that has zero to do with with racing, is what throws me off.
Yeah. Well, the thing is it has both. It has both racing, and then there's just some scenes with wrestling in it.
Just to remind you that they are wrestlers.
That they're wrestlers. There's even a final battle.
Yeah.
I would hate to see a movie with Scooby-Doo and Danica Patrick.
That's true. You could, in many ways, replace like a lot of these with NASCAR stars, but I wouldn't. It wouldn't be as ridiculous though.
Probably.
You wouldn't have people surfing on drones or...
Yeah, at least with the WWE personalities, you kind of get their eccentricities. Whereas I think if you did it with like actual NASCAR people, they'd just be like acting like normal people, and it wouldn't be nearly as entertaining.
Yeah, they'd just be like, "Hey there, Scoob," but everyone else is like, "Yeah, Scooby!"
Because if I can give credit to the WWE people, they are ostensibly actors. So their performances in the movie and all these movies are very good. Because they know how to ham it up for a cartoon, because they're basically cartoon characters in real life.
Oh, they are hamming it up in this movie, and I kind of love it.
Yeah, like the Miz is going on about how awesome he is the entire movie, and I love that he is not ashamed that they make him the butt of the joke a lot of the time.
Oh, he's like the butt of every joke, and he's just like, I'm awesome, guys. And then Paige is smacking him around.
Yeah. So it's cool.
I couldn't
Looks
quite...
like those Russian people were actually Russian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Rusev's actually I think he's from Russia or Bulgaria or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's a lady.
Rusev and Lana, and they were in a car, and on my notes here, it's shaped like a train, but it's big.
The Russian Express.
It's called the Russian Express. It's big and it's blue, and so to me it looked like Thomas the Tank Engine.
Did.
Yep.
I think there's even a little red on there, so I think it totally looks like Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, but they kept they were racing from Mother Russia. That Lana kept screaming. They were like,
okay,
Mother Russia.
There's something about so the whole point of this race is like a 3-circuit race that they have to do over a couple of days. The prize is $1 million. I bet you anything their salaries just for being wrestlers is like 50 times that.
Oh yeah,
Chump change.
The best is that
you might as well be doing it for charity.
They show the actual prize, and it's just a big glass box with just piles with dollar bills in it. Like, that's the $1 million prize. You get that box.
And there's some of the people go on about what they're gonna do with the money, and I cannot remember what happened. I know that the Undertaker wants to start a school for puppetry or something.
Yeah, he's into puppets, and that's the big gag, is that he's this big intimidating guy, and he's like, I'm gonna start a school for puppets.
And that's another thing where I can give credit to the wrestlers and their acting, is that he still he sells that he just likes puppets.
What? I like puppets, and he at the end he pulls out an Undertaker puppet. It's pretty great.
It's adorable.
Yes, I still think Stardust and Goldust are probably my favorite.
Because they're so fucking weird.
Do you like them?
Goldust and Stardust, I don't know who they are because I've never seen them wrestle before, but they're these two guys in face paint, kiss like face paint, and the whole movie they're just sort of ephemeral or almost just fairy tale like, because they're just shooting sparkles everywhere and then just disappearing at various intervals, and they're co-writers with Sheamus, and so Sheamus's the whole time was
he hates them.
He hates them, and he doesn't know what they're doing. But then they're just like, "Calm down, Sheamus," and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And then you turn around and they're gone, and there's sparkles where they are.
It's not like they're just standing around; they're in a car. Where do they go?
Yeah, exactly.
In a moving vehicle.
At the beginning, they're just doing yoga or something on top of his car, and it's so weird. And I'm just like, what? And it made me wonder how these guys act in an actual wrestling ring.
So I did a little bit of research, and it looks like Goldust's dad is Dusty Rhodes.
Oh,
and this is probably Dusty Rhodes' final thing, because he died in 2015 and this came out in 2016.
Oh, that's sad.
Shame. Yeah, so Dusty Rhodes is in this movie, and he's the Undertaker's, I guess, passenger. And I wrote in my notes because he's with the Undertaker, but on the cover of the movie, it's just the Undertaker and Shaggy and Scooby, and so I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen to Dusty Rhodes? What's going to happen? He's not on the cover. I don't see him. What's going to happen? And then 5 seconds later, the Speed Demon comes along and injures him.
And then he's just out for the rest of the movie.
He's out of the race, but
yeah,
which we'll get into later. He just sort of shows up in these scenes smiling evilly. I guess to kind of make him a red herring, because remember they sort of shoehorn a mystery into this.
Yeah.
It also says here that when it was shown at San Diego Comic-Con, Hulk Hogan was going to be in it, prominently featured. Oh, that would have been awesome.
He must have been the Undertaker role.
I would have loved that better.
Maybe, because it's it's two older kind of wrestlers, or
yeah, because they bring up, they're like, oh, that's vintage Undertaker, so that might have been what would have
they're legends because they're in the Legend Mobile.
That's right. Well, they're in the Legend Mobile for 2 minutes, and then it gets destroyed, and the Undertaker is driving Shaggy and Scooby's food cart for the rest of the series, for the rest of the film.
Until that gets destroyed, and they soup up the Mystery Machine.
That's right. That's right.
They get 3 different cars in this movie.
They get 3 different cars, so that's 3 different toys we can make.
Exactly.
Let's see on my notes here. I was surprised that there was continuity and they didn't treat this as a whole new thing.
Yeah, because it was weird that they reference back to the Ghost Bear and all that stuff, and just made me wonder what happened to WWE City.
I feel like this takes place in WWE City. Maybe Shaggy and Scooby just went to live there. They now reside in WWE City. They get to watch wrestling for the rest of their lives.
They pay rent to Mr. McMahon.
Yeah. There's a weird little note that I noticed in here is so the Undertaker comes out and Shaggy and Scooby are they're both his biggest fans and they're also scared of him. And and the little joke is he's not so scary when he's on TV. And there's some kind of line where Shaggy says something along the lines of is he going to take us to the underworld or something? And I'm sitting there just man, Shaggy believes in hell.
Well, I mean, if you watch the latest episode of Supernatural.
Oh my God.
I have a freak out.
Okay. We might have to do a special bonus episode because that's something I might need to watch.
Oh my God, I've never watched an episode of Supernatural before, but that was the best ever.
And I kind of want to go into that completely blind.
Exactly.
My girlfriend loves Supernatural, and the only reason why I somewhat like to watch it is because Curtis Armstrong is in it.
Oh yeah?
Oh, nice.
I love Curtis Armstrong.
He's kind of the best.
I met him at Monster Mania Con last year. He's a real nice guy.
So I saw on 4chan he sells headshots of Dan. Did he have any of those to sign? What are those so bad?
Maybe. I can't remember. I had him sign a drawing of Snot from American Dad that I drew.
That's
Nice.
amazing.
Yeah. Let's see what else is here. I did wonder at one point in the movie, do you think not just the Undertaker, but any of these people are big Scooby-Doo fans? I'm sitting there going do you think the Undertaker just leapt at this job, at this role, and was just yes, I get to act alongside Shaggy and Scooby in a movie?
I mean, I feel it's one of those things where it's all they're all under contract to do this kind of stuff, so it's McMahon just goes around you, and you come with me.
That's true.
I figured they got kids.
I mean, probably.
They just do
That's
it for their
also
kids.
true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, when you see
if
normally... Oh, sorry. You go first.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's if you've got kids and you got an opportunity to be in a cartoon, Scooby-Doo especially, I mean, who's not going to jump at that?
Yeah, that's true. It's just one of those things where it's like, if you see a cartoon and just like a normally raunchy comedian is in it, 99% of the time it's because they got kids.
I mean, yeah. I mean, why do we put Dennis Leary in Ice Age?
Yeah.
Or Mr. Potato Head.
Exactly.
Yeah,
who put Don Rickles into a kids movie?
Don Rickles, George Carlin was in a bunch of like kid stuff.
I miss George Carlin.
Yeah, he was. Do you remember that show Shining Time Station? It's like how.
Oh yeah.
It's how us Americans were introduced to Thomas the Tank Engine. Like, it was like Thomas the Tank Engine shorts interspliced with these like goings on at some train station, and there was a character called Mr. Conductor, who was this tiny man who was like the size of a G.I. Joe, and he was just like hanging out with a bunch of characters, and like I don't know, but he was played by George Carlin.
That is amazing.
I'm dead serious. It exists, and he I think he even brings up in his stand up at one point.
That's funny.
Let's see. There was the thing about I was asking about Freddy being a gearhead. I commented. I actually thought the Speed Demon, like when he was in action, was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I think visually
like
he was
design.
an interesting villain.
Yeah. I mean,
the reveal was kind of underwhelming, but you know,
we'll get into that later.
Oh yeah,
I've got more notes. Okay, so you were saying you had a scene that made you laugh like out loud. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that or?
That's the thing. There are like I literally just got done watching this movie before we started recording.
You don't remember?
I can't remember.
That's great. I had to write mine down. So the thing
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to go first?
All right, it's short. I think the thing that made me laugh was when Dusty Rhodes was giving off like a Hitchcock type thing, where he's like talking to the screen, and then Goldust and Stardust are like slowly moving into frame.
I saw that was pretty great. Okay, so for me, the thing that made me laugh out loud was this one point where they're all at a buffet, and I forget what exactly happens, but they all start fighting each other and like doing wrestling moves and stuff. And Vince McMahon comes in and starts like, talking them down. He's like, "Stop this," whatever. And like, Lana comes up and starts complaining to Vince McMahon, but then the Miz comes in and he just I had to write this down. He just shouts out, "Me next, I need attention." And for some reason that, like, I don't know why, but that made me laugh.
I gotta say, the Miz is probably like one of my favorite parts of this whole fucking thing. Just how obnoxious he is.
Yeah, but just "me next, I need attention." Just hearing this grown man screaming that.
I'm sure he loved saying that. Like,
he was doing the exact same thing from the last movie. He was in the same exact outfit.
That's just his character.
Well, then they referenced it later. There's a scene at night. They
it's like outside of a hotel. The first time I've been attacked while jogging.
Yeah, he gets attacked by the Speed Demon. He's like, "This is the first time." One thing about that night scene that I also love, the Undertaker sleeps in his trench coat and doesn't snore in his sleep. He growls.
Sure does.
So it's just like.
I really hope he does that in real life, because that would be hilarious.
And it's that kind of ridiculous that I was like, okay, all right, I gotcha. You're having fun with this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, in the first crossover with Scooby-Doo, they treated the superstars as, like, superheroes, basically.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of it in this, but I think now they realize, we can get kind of goofy with this, and, like, they kind of take pot shots at pretty much all of the WWE characters.
The Undertaker does lift a car above his head.
He sure does. He lifts up a car up because they all have super strength.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. We talked about this a little earlier, but there's these two wrestlers. I'm looking on this. They're Diego and Fernando, and they're sort of like these matadors. But then they have a short wrestler with them dressed as a bull named El Torito.
Yeah, I don't know who any of the luchadors are.
Well, El Torito just starts showing up in random places, like. At the buffet, they have this big plate of burritos, and he just runs up screaming, "Burritos! Burritos!" And he picks like 5 of them up and just runs off with them. And then, like, at one point in the movie, you just see Shaggy and Scooby dressed as matadors, like, holding up the red cloth and just letting him ram towards them. So I'm just like, is he their playmate now? Like... They're just like best friends now. It's amazing.
They make best friends with everybody.
They do. They are best friends with the wrestlers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. So we have these race because it's 3 parts over 3 days, and it does that. Do you remember that Sega game that was like Sonic Racing Transformed or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like you had a car and then it would transform into a boat and then it would transform to a plane.
Yep.
Is that the one with Danica Patrick and Banjo-Kazooie?
Yep. It sure is.
That one had like the longest fucking name because it was like Sega and Sonic, or Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing with Banjo-Kazooie Transformed, and I'm just like, holy shit.
Well, because it's so dumb, because it's like, it used to just be Sega All-Stars whatever, and that used to be like their blanket title for all of it, but then they decided, oh, well, we need to put Sonic in the title because then people who know Sonic will buy it.
Yeah.
Even though he's on the fucking cover.
Yeah, he's always displayed prominently on the cover. It has to be Sonic and Sega All-Stars.
Well, no one's gonna buy it if it's Samba de Amigo and Sega All-Stars Racing.
Exactly.
And I think that one also had Wreck-It Ralph in it for some reason.
Like,
he sounded like Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh, yeah.
It might be here, but yeah, it's like every version of that game, like the Wii version, the PlayStation version, the Xbox, and the Steam version, all had different extra characters.
That's right.
Like I think the Steam version had the guys from Team Fortress 2 in it for some reason.
And at one point, the Steam one had some podcast guy. I don't remember. I think it was some kind of charity thing. I don't remember. But anyway, the reason I bring that up is because they basically do the same thing with this. Like, they start with cars, and then, like, for the first day, and then the second day, they're just driving in boats. Like, they just drive their cars into the water, and they immediately become hovercrafts.
Because that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, it becomes Diddy Kong Racing for a little bit there. And then, and then the third race, they're back in the cars, but they're driving up a mountain. And they do this sort of Mario Kart thing where they just drive off a ramp and, like, parachutes come out. Right.
Which, that's totally how car physics work.
Exactly. You can the same size parachute for a human is enough to lift two humans in a gigantic car, like monster truck wheels.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's exactly how that works.
Those Dead Man's Curve. And
I just want to say that, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, I feel like one of the most least interesting parts of this movie is the actual racing, because I don't again, I watched this. Yeah. I got out of this movie less than a half hour ago. I couldn't tell you what happened in all 3 of those races, other than the fact that the like you were saying, the car transformation. That's all I could tell you.
Well, the only thing that you really need to take with you is that Stephanie McMahon and Triple H win, in their car. They win the first 2 races, and then that apparently brings suspicion amongst the people, and I guess we can get into sort of the end, because they do the whole the Speed Demon is there, and he's got a scorpion car.
Yeah, so the Speed Demon is the,
I just
is the
said
masked
that.
bad. The Speed Demon is the masked bad guy. So this is a Scooby-Doo mystery, kind of, in the sense that, like, they say, oh, there's a mystery. I think they kind of forget about trying to solve it for about an hour, and then at the last 10 minutes, they're like, oh, yeah.
They have, like, 2 half kind of investigation scenes, and that's it.
Yeah, and they, like, there's any number of people that you think this could be. Like, it could be the mechanic. It could be Vince McMahon. I, for a few minutes, thought it was the television producer that was going around.
I first thought it was going to be Vince, and then I thought it was going to be the mechanic, and at the end, it's someone completely different, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so, spoilers if you don't want to know the ending to Scooby-Doo and the Speed Demon, but yeah, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon are both the Speed Demon, and my only reason I thought this was weird, because it's like, why would you make one of the wrestlers the villain? Because, like, in the last movie, it was just their, like, made up character for the movie.
I actually kind of dug that it was a wrestler, because
I mean, it's fine. It's just kind of,
it just means that, like, one of the wrestlers was like, cool, I get to be the villain.
Yeah. So there's also like something that was like about with the first one was the villain was a completely like made up character for that movie. It wasn't like a wrestler. It wasn't like a villain wrestler, or, you know, like one that everyone hates. It wasn't Vince McMahon. It was just some guy that they made up for the movie. And so we didn't have a lot of that in this one. So I was just kind of like, maybe it actually will be a wrestler this time. That's interesting. It's not just some random dude we made up for no reason. Yeah, but like go ahead, Kyle.
Have they ever made a mystery thing where it's like they give you a bunch of clues and you're like, shit, who is it? Oh, it's this person, and then it's just a character that's never been introduced ever before?
I can't think of anything, but I'm sure it's happened.
I feel like people have done that to make fun of Scooby-Doo, but I don't know if there's an actual Scooby-Doo episode that's like that.
I would love to do that, but I know that a pup's named Scooby-Doo did have a guy named Red Herring.
I was just about to say that. I remember Red Herring, and like,
every episode Fred thought it was him.
Every episode Fred thought it was him, and then I think in one episode it actually was him.
just shake it up a bit.
I don't remember what he did, because I haven't seen that show in like 10 years.
Yeah, but like the reveal of Triple H and Stephanie being the Speed Demon is such like underwhelming, because there's no way you could have guessed that, because they start introducing evidence that, like, okay, I think like we were talking before we started recording, is that like in any good mystery they give you enough clues that when you go back and look at it, you can be like, oh, okay, I can see how you got there. They introduce evidence at the end of this. It's like there's no way the viewer could have ever known that.
Yes, there are numerous instances where, because yes, both Stephanie and Triple H are the villain, and so they think of ways to make it so that, like, earlier in the movie you saw shots of both Stephanie and Triple H in their car, you know, while the Speed Demon is driving around, and so like the way they discuss that, or the way they talk around that, is that whenever you saw that shot, either Stephanie or Triple H was a fake Stephanie or Triple H.
Like they were a dummy or something, just sitting in their place, and just no one ever noticed that.
And like, what a way to pull that out of your ass.
Which is weird, because I'm pretty sure they had shots of them in the car talking to each other, so it's like...
It's so convoluted. It reminds me of like the Toy Story where they're playing. It's like, I got a tech dog that eats force field. Just stuff like that, where it's just completely made up.
Yeah, when you're playing with a kid who's like, well, I've got a power that has all the powers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, the whole reveal is just like confusing and underwhelming, and just like, how did you get to that? And then like, and then her motivation for it is really random, because she's like, oh, we did this because I wanted to prove to you that I could do everything. Like, I could run this race
Yeah.
And do my WWE responsibilities. Is like, okay, so you almost murdered a bunch of your coworkers to prove something to your dad, like a moral
It's just
thing.
a fuck you, Dad.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it again, yeah, it was just completely pulled out of their ass. But the weird thing is that I feel like this is also a time where the motivation for being a ghost isn't to scare people away. So what was her motivation again?
Yeah, I wasn't sure, because it's like, was she going to like win as the speed demon and then take off her mask? Like, it was me all along and I won it without your approval or whatever. And it's like, you still like almost murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I don't think that excuses it.
One of my
Was I
favorite.
what did that?
Well, one of my favorite bits is that they try to explain, because they try to explain that yeah, like when if it's Stephanie or Triple H, if they're the speed demon, like in the disguise, there's a dummy of their, real identity in the car. And so there's one scene where Triple H fights the speed demon. And so they showed this little clip of him fighting the speed demon, and it's like, well, there was a dummy in the car of Stephanie McMahon, and she was actually the speed demon at the time. And so they just showed this little bit where it like kind of x-rays like the speed demon's face, and you just see Stephanie McMahon's face in it about to like beat up Triple H. And she just goes, "I'm so sorry, honey." And then they just start fighting.
Yeah, he's like, just make it look real. Or
Oh, yeah.
something dumb like that.
and like their whole explanation, really, because like they say like, okay, well, when one of us is on the other one, we're remotely controlling it, like with these weird remote control hand things driving the other car. But if they're both on the same car, who's driving the other car? Or both of them?
Yeah,
Wouldn't
that
them
didn't make
fighting,
sense.
wouldn't them fighting using their hands and stuff fuck the car up?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, they brought back the motion control video game controls from the first
They both
movie.
had the power glove on.
Yeah. We're not kidding. She had a power glove on. It was like, it had little like glowing Tron wires and everything.
Or those gloves that
was
everyone
so
uses
bad.
in Ready Player One or whatever. Those
Oh man,
things.
I haven't seen that. I don't have any desire.
I liked that movie. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear it's better than it looks, but I'm still not convinced.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to finish the book, but
Ah.
they're nothing like each other.
Is
Anyway,
Goldust and Stardust in there?
I don't think so, as far as I
Okay.
know.
Is
They
Dusty
could be.
Rhodes in there?
There's a million things, but yeah,
I don't think that guy knows about anything about wrestling.
probably.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. They're the speed demon.
They done it. They were the who done it.
Oh,
Did
and
they
there's
get
also
arrested at the end?
They
do.
did get arrested at the end.
They got arrested, and Vince McMahon is just like, "I've got great lawyers. They'll be
Well,
out
no,
of
that's
here
the
in
dumb
24
thing.
hours."
It's because it's like at the end, like they're like, because yeah, they get carted away, and then Velma comes up to us like, well, this must be really hard on you. He's like, yeah, well, they'll learn their lessons, but I also got really good lawyers, so they'll be out of there in a day. And it's like, okay, so are they gonna learn a lesson for doing this, or are they just gonna get out of jail and not learn their lessons? So it's like,
And
I just love dumb shit like that where it's like they didn't break any laws at all, but then they get arrested at the end because they were the
I think they
antagonists.
might.
Yeah.
I think attempted vehicular manslaughter might be on the list.
yeah, that's true. They did try to run people off the road
Yeah, that you can be arrested for reckless driving.
and steal, I guess, $1 million worth of money,
That
Which
you probably
means-
don't need.
which means nothing to them because there was a scene earlier where Stephanie's talking to Daphne. Yeah,
Oh,
remember,
yeah.
There are Scooby-Doo characters in this movie. And it was something about like, because I forgot that Daphne's like from a rich family. I guess
Yeah.
that's her character thing. And so she's like something along the lines of like, well, Daddy will pay for that, or I don't want to work for Daddy. Why do you want to work for your dad? And then like Stephanie McMahon's just like, well, you deal in millions, I deal in billions, or something like that.
Then a month later,
so-
like she pulled the "my dad's richer than your dad" thing.
Which is funny because then it's a further detail that like that prize means nothing to any of these people.
Exactly. It's all about proving that she can win. Like the money is, not important, but
no, it's not important at all. The Undertaker and the Triple H did have a final battle. He was the Speed Demon, but that was where they actually got to animate some wrestling.
yeah, like the part where the Miz fights the Speed Demon and the part where Undertaker fights the Demon is like pretty much the only major spots where you actually see wrestling done.
Yeah,
there's some fighting done in other parts, but
yeah, there's a funny little wrestling bit in the buffet before Vince McMahon comes and scolds everybody like children.
I did enjoy that.
Yeah,
he just walks in and everyone's got each other in like headlocks and shit.
They do try to kind of, and I guess I took this bait because they try to set up Vince McMahon as like a red herring.
Oh god!
Because he walks off like during the races, and then it's just this really bad joke. Because at the end, he's like, "I wanted to sing the national anthem at the next race or whatever."
That's why he kept disappearing all those times. And they're like, "Sure, why not?"
I gotta go practice, and then at the end,
he's really
you get the final lyric of the national anthem, and it's Vince McMahon's actually singing it, but he just sounds like Nick Nolte belching. Like it's just like
for all those people who ever wanted to actually hear that.
For the land of the free.
Pretty much. I will say Vince McMahon has a really good voice for cartoons.
Yeah.
I love his voice.
He could play anybody's like grumbly grandfather.
Like I love like you guys really need to watch the cartoon about them as kids that they made a couple years ago because I love Vince McMahon in there because he's fucking crazy.
All right, I'm gonna have to look this up. I know I said that last time, but
I plan to review that show over the summer, so watch it before that when you talk about it.
Good.
But yeah, so yeah, this movie's just kind of bananas in like a very strange way, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, honestly.
I would say
about right.
Yeah, I would say I like this more than the first one because the first one, like we said, was again about just sort of celebrity kind of kiss ass kind of oh man.
Yeah.
It was more about wrestling, which I don't have a huge interest in, but then this
one... It was
one...
more about wrestling, but it was a racing movie.
Yeah. This one...
I had fun with it.
Exactly. This one... Yeah. There's sometimes there's movies that, like, aren't good, very good at all, but you can tell the people making them had a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And this felt to me like they had more fun with it than the other Scooby-Doo one. Like the Scooby-Doo, the other one like felt more out of obligation. This one felt more like, well, okay, we did that. Let's have a lot of fun with this one. But maybe that's just me.
Let's just be goofy. No one has to take it seriously. Like,
yeah.
I mean, at the point where the Undertaker takes on a little puppet version of himself, I mean, I think that's where you can draw the line. It was like, okay, we're not taking anything seriously.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, I like this one more than that, but I think I like the Flintstones one more.
All right, Kyle, do you have any thing you want to say before we wrap up?
It all right.
All right, not subtle or nuanced.
Oh yeah, when I say like I like these movies, they're not. It's not the fucking Magnificent Ambersons or like Citizen Kane or something. I'm talking about wrestling cartoon crossover movies.
I mean, for what they are, they're entertaining at least. So
yeah.
I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there you go, guys. That's Scooby-Doo wrestling speed demons racing. There you go.
Completely butchered that title, but
good job, everybody.
I guess now I got to get my hands on a copy of Jetsons Wrestling.
So that does it for our recording this week, and next week we'll be wrapping up our month of Hanna-Barbera WWE crossovers when the WWE meets the Jetsons. And so,
yeah!
I can only hope that they get someone to imitate Macho Man Randy Savage to be in the movie, because that would be great.
I think I think
Spoiler
Sheamus
alert.
is in
I
it,
know.
and that's all I remember. I think,
The Big Show.
The Big Show is the big bad guy.
Oh yeah, he said that. Okay,
He
yeah.
crushes their ship.
What
Oh,
a
shit.
dick. Well, we'll get into that next week.
Kyle, no spoilers, man.
Man.
Sorry.
Alright. Well,
Bye,
thanks,
guys.
thanks for everyone for listening. We'll catch you all next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch a new episode every week. Also be sure to follow us on our Facebook and Twitter so you can keep up with the show. Links are in the description. We'll see you next week.